Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Exploring DC, where we take a piece of DC and explore with you. I am your host, Josh. With me are my two co-hosts, Jackson and Jalen. Jackson, water check.
I got it. It's
There we
it's
go.
only about it's only about a quarter full.
Okay.
So there's a very real chance I run out of water while we talk about this fuck ass movie, but
But that means you've been drinking.
I've
Like,
been drinking. I just ate a Caesar salad, chicken Caesar salad with some
ooh.
French fries, and then I got some mint chocolate chip ice cream.
Like, are we talking good chicken or freezer chicken?
It was good
Either's
chicken. It
fine.
was
Okay, good
it was
chicken.
restaurant chicken
Oh,
From where?
fancy.
from the Salem Street Pub.
Okay.
That sounds
That's
interesting.
exciting.
Yeah,
Huh?
That sounds so good.
It was. And the
Yeah.
fries were delicious.
Jalen, how are we doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. I'm. This movie was a struggle.
It, wa-
It,
I
it,
wa- I watched it 2 days ago, and I was like, I know both of you are gonna wait till today to watch it, and I was like,
yeah.
they're not prepared for this movie.
Dude, so if you guys don't follow me on Letterboxd, I guess we're just gonna jump right in, and now I'm gonna be the host and segue us into the movie.
Okay,
I
Jackson.
if you don't follow me on Letterboxd at Den of Geeks, my review is just the Onion article. Holy shit, there's still 50 minutes left in this movie, and that sums it up really well, I think.
That was how I felt in the beginning. There's so
That's how I
much.
felt as soon as Margot get her lift. Like, as soon as Lois Lane was like, "Yeah, I'm going to fucking Argentina or wherever she went," I was like, "Oh, I'm
Yeah.
checked out."
hmm
Yeah, no, man.
Gang,
This movie was a.
we are on part three of the Superman Christopher Reeve watch through so far. Superman 3 came out in 1983. Returning director Richard Lester, who me and Jackson have not seen his proper work yet. Jalen
Yeah.
did in Superman 2. We watched the Richard Donner director's cut. But he's coming back here. Same writers from the first two movies, David and Leslie Newman. What did not return is Mario Puzo's story script, and he worked on The Godfather, and I feel like there's definitely an element there that's missing. Composer Ken Thorne, which came back just from Superman 2, so John
Yeah.
Williams is completely out at this point. Actually, I didn't for the movie that it's going for. I thought the music was fine.
Yeah, sure.
Little
There was very
whimsical.
little
Really?
Superman.
I thought it was terrible.
Really?
Yeah, I thought everything about this movie from top to bottom
Yeah.
was just not worthy of any sort of screen time. Even like the music, the Superman theme was so dry and
Oh
like
boy. We're about to get into it.
emotionless.
I'm so
It's
curious about
terrible,
everything that
dude.
you guys think about this one.
I'm just
Returning,
so, but honestly,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's terrible in a fascinating way.
It is. The production is crazy. I'm gonna
Oh, dude,
cast
I
here.
figured because I'm excited.
Yeah.
If nothing else, when I was watching, I was like, I'm really excited to hear all of Josh's like behind the scenes tidbits because I bet it's fucking crazy in this one,
I have the tidbits for you, dude.
dude. All right, so
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, are we just gonna get into it then?
Well, I'm gonna go over cast real
Already.
quick here because some of them are interesting. Christopher Reeve, Clark Kent, Superman, Richard Pryor, who was a big comedian at the time, completely overtakes this movie as hit
He's
character
in this
Gus
more than Christopher
Foreman.
Reeve. I swear to God. Like,
No,
Yeah.
dude, he is, and that is the part that that was driving me crazy the entire time. I was like, why am I watching? Why am I watching him more than I'm seeing Clark Kent? You know, this is
It's
it's
There's
terrible.
so much. Annette O'Toole plays Lana Lang. She actually played. Who did she? She was in
Smallville, she
Smallville.
played Superman's mom. She played Ma
Yeah,
Kent.
she played Martha Kent.
I
And I
knew
was
that.
like, I
I
thought
know
that was
these
a
things.
fun tie-in. Robert Vaughn plays Ross Webster, who's basically Lex Luthor. We have Andy Ross plays his sister Vera. Pamela Stevenson plays his girlfriend Lorelai. Gavin O'Harley plays Brad, the small town guy. And then we have returning people Perry White, Jimmy Olsen, and then a little bit of Margot Kidder as Lois Lane, but she's barely in it. And then a budget of 39 million, box office 80.2 million. That's over $100 million drop off from the last movie. So
wow.
it was a pretty steep decline here. There's a whole story. Richard Donner had plans to do two more Superman films after Superman 2. But as we talked about last week, there was a big conflict at the end of Superman 1 and halfway through filming Superman 2. He exits, so those scripts never get made.
Mhm.
Tom Mankiewicz was going to direct, who worked on the first couple movies, and the villain was going to be Brainiac.
You can tell this was supposed to be Brainiac.
Mm-hmm. So this movie was announced in 1980 at the Cannes Film Festival, of all places. Uh, returning producer Ilya Salkind, who like headlined the past two movies, and he's the reason Donner had a bunch of conflict and other people had a bunch of conflict. He wrote a screenplay that included Brainiac, Mr. Mxyzptlk, and Supergirl. This script was rejected for being too expensive of what they were trying to do. Mxyzptlk seemed to be kind of accurate to what they were wanting to do. He's like a mischievous from another dimension. And then I have the specifics. I took a screenshot of the wiki, so I'm just going to read a little bit of it. Brainiac was from Kolu and had discovered Supergirl in the same way as Superman was found by the Kents. Brainiac is portrayed as a surrogate father to Supergirl and eventually falls in love with his daughter, who did not reciprocate his feelings, as she had fallen in love with Superman. In this script, Superman and Supergirl are not cousins at all. Completely different thing. Brainiac retaliates by using a personality machine to corrupt and manipulate Superman, which there's elements of that in this movie. The climax of the film would have seen Superman, Supergirl, Jimmy Olsen, Lana Lang, and Brainiac time travel to the Middle Ages to fight Brainiac. After defeating him and leaving Brainiac behind, Superman and Supergirl would have married at the end of Superman 3 or Superman 4. That is the original, what we were going to try to do.
Uh-huh.
So obviously that gets rejected because Brainiac, Supergirl, it's a lot to do. Especially when they're like diminishing returns or trying
So this was when Donner was supposed to...
This is after Donner left. This is producer
good.
Ilya Salkin's script. Donner still wanted to do Brainiac, but I imagine it would have been a lot.
Married, not have Superman bang Supergirl.
Mm-mm.
Good.
So what was interesting is some of these elements are still in the movie. We see there is still a focus on computers, and there was going to be in the original one. There's still the Lana Lang aspect of it all, and there's still... I wrote it down. Anyway, the Superman corruption and like him splitting and having that was in the original script too. So a lot of stuff did return. Originally titled Superman vs. Superman, but they had to change it because Kramer vs. Kramer, the people that made that movie, were gonna sue them. Which I don't know. I feel like it's generic enough they could have got away with it.
Yeah.
And then no Gene Hackman and Margot Kidder was barely in it. Gene Hackman refused to work with them because of the Salkins, and he did not like how they treated Donner. And he also had like scheduling conflicts with a bunch of other movies. And then Margot Kidder, they said she had scheduling stuff, but it was kind of believed that she was pretty much forced out of the movie.
Wow.
Because of like conflicts. And so that's why she's in a very small role. And then Gene Hackman and Margot Kidder both come back for substantial roles in Superman 4. And that's when the Salkins are like off the movies. They don't come back. So it was very much a lot of behind the scenes tension that caused a lot of the old cast to not be in this. And then we have Richard Pryor, who's big in this movie. He's like the second main character. What happened was he was on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. And he has this whole bit about how much he loved Superman, is excited to see Superman 2. And he like reenacts the first Superman movie. And it becomes this huge talk show bit. The producer, Ilya Salkin, sees that and like reaches out to him. It's like, hey, I know you said you want to be in one of these movies. I will actually put you in this movie. And we get what we get now. I'd actually convinced the director, Richard Lester, to come back because Richard Lester is not typically a fan of superhero stuff and he wasn't going to come back. But because he wanted to work with Richard Pryor, he came back. And that's pretty much how we got to where we are. So there's elements that are really trimmed down from the original script. A heavy focus on Richard Pryor just because of his popularity at the time. He was the highest paid black actor like for this movie around the time. So it was a consequences of the moment and the era that we were in, and then also just them trying to trim back after all the conflicts of Donner, all the conflicts of the budget. So that's how we get the most mundane Superman movie you could ever think of. I'm gonna get you guys quick thoughts. I've already heard that you're not a fan.
All right, so there's a scene about a little over halfway through the movie for our viewers and watchers at home who haven't seen it, where Superman turns evil. And the first thing, I shit you not, the first thing that Superman does is he goes to the Leaning Tower of Pisa and fucking straightens it out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's supposed to be like, look at this guy, he's so evil. And
he's a menace.
I unironically, that shit is so funny.
It was awesome.
That was like one of the few. And then he there's this like recurring bit with the vendor where like he like fucking throws his merchandise at the ground and is like, curse you, Superman. And at the end of the movie, it reveals that he now has a bunch of new merchandise where it's straight. And then good Superman comes back and fucking like retilts the tower. It's so funny.
Yeah.
That was like the one comedic bit in this movie that like really worked on me. I thought that was hilarious. Because this movie's basically like a slapstick comedy, like disguised as a superhero film. But like most of slapstick comedy is really unfunny. But
Hmm.
that was comedy gold, I thought.
Yeah. That it's just such a fascinating. Jalen, did you know this movie before? Had you seen it?
No, not at all.
Jackson, did you seen it before?
I had not seen it, and I knew almost nothing about it.
The only part I remember distinctly was the Superman versus Evil Superman, the Clark Kent. I had seen
In the
that.
junkyard.
Yeah,
See,
I'd seen that a bunch.
I thought that was Quest for Peace. I didn't know that was
I
this
kind of
one.
thought that was Quest for Peace too.
So I remember that. I don't remember, and I knew Richard Pryor was like big in one of these movies. I thought that he like was Superman's Jimmy Olsen surrogate, like buddy in the
Mm.
movie. I did not realize he was going to be the antagonist. So I got like a completely new experience of it too. Jalen, you hated it?
Oh yeah, no, this movie was terrible.
Yeah.
It was the most. I haven't seen a superhero movie, in my opinion, that was this bad since. Let me put it this way. I would rather watch Steel 10
Yeah.
times over
Over this
before
one?
watching before rewatching this movie again. That is my feelings right there.
I was definitely falling asleep at a certain point, and I
No,
was
dude,
watching it during
It
the
is a
day.
sleepy movie.
Yeah.
I found it so hard to pay attention, bro. And I'm gonna be I normally like lock in, and I normally like try to take in as much as I can of these movies and of these TV shows that we watch for this podcast. But I was sitting here and I was watching it, and literally as soon as Lois Lane pieces out of there, I'm like, are we where are we going with this, right? Well, no, actually, that slapstick opening with the title sequence was terrible. I don't know what they were doing there. So I just straight up
Mhm.
hopped on 2K while I had the movie playing in the background, and I would like look over and I would be listening in every once in a while, and I would be like looking at it, I would be like, what are we doing? You know?
Oh, so this guy was on 2K the whole time. See, I
No,
actually,
no, no. And that's the
Attention
thing. That's the
span
thing too.
final boss
Is
over
that
here.
oh no.
yo,
No, bro. I was like, I promise you, bro. I was like listening to it, and I was like trying to be as locked in as I possibly can. The movie was boring.
while
It
on
was
2K.
whack, man.
You know
See,
what?
No,
I don't think
I
Jalen
wanted.
gets to complain because
Hmm.
I was not on my phone or anything. I was watching the
No.
entire fucking time.
Yeah. And the whole time I was like, I wish Subway Surfers was
I
right
know.
on the side of
I
the
You
wish
know,
I
screen.
had Family Guy funny moments in the corner.
Yeah.
nah, man. This movie, bottom line, this movie was terrible, Josh. It was awful.
Yeah, the opening for me was interesting. I kind of liked how they had Superman doing various saves. It was just so distracting that you're getting the credits just like flashed at
It was
you
bizarre
every
because
two
they were trying to
seconds.
stylize it after the first two movies, but instead of being like over space,
Hmm.
it was over
Like
a
actual
penguin that's
footage.
on fire.
But I don't dislike the idea of like what the opening is going for. I
No,
think it's a fun opening to a Superman movie. I just think it's not fully executed. And this whole
it was
movie,
strange.
there's stuff I like because I watched the behind the scenes documentary of it, of the making
Hmm.
of. And the making of doc is essentially just a set day where they have Al Matthews, who was one of the firefighters, he narrates it and he's just like talking about various stuff and they're interviewing them on set. And you can tell that everyone there like had passion and had creative ideas for what they were trying to do. Particularly like some of the stuff like where he grabs the lake and freezes it and
That
brings
was
it over to
cool.
the firefighters,
I like that bit.
or how they had to design the ski slope rooftop, stuff like that. It doesn't work fully because it's so goofy and so out of context of Superman, but I appreciate still a lot of the filmmaking behind this.
But the lake thing in particular felt like something out of a comic book, which
It was cool.
I appreciated that. But can I make a comparison that's can I make a comparison? I'm gonna make a comparison real quick. The third act of this movie felt like a really bad set piece from an Austin Powers movie.
Yeah. Or like a Bond film or anything like
Yeah,
that.
or like I guess more a shitty Bond film, but like it specifically, I was thinking about like when the woman gets turned into a robot. I was like, that feels like something from an Austin Powers movie, and I don't know why.
The makeup kind of looked crazy on that too.
It
I
did.
was
You know, and like, have any of you guys ever seen the old Fleischer or Flesher? I don't know how you pronounce his name. The old Superman
no.
cartoons. So I had a DVD disc. It's around here somewhere. Um, of that. I don't even know when it came out. I don't know if it was 70s or 60s or whatever, right? But there was literally an episode that had a person turning into a cyborg, and it kind of reminded me of that a little bit, especially when, it just kind of came out of nowhere, and I was like, wow, she's really turned into a cyborg, huh? That's what we're doing.
I
That's what we're
want to talk
doing.
about Superman for a brief second because he's only in a brief second in terms of this total runtime. You see some stuff with him. Basically, the setup is that he's going to Smallville to interact with his old high school for high school reunion, and there he meets Lana Lang, our new protagonist or love interest. They brought Lana Lang in because they thought the Lois thing was overplayed and also the stuff of Margot Kidder, so that's why they shifted to Lana. And then she doesn't come back afterwards, so it's a very interesting one-off situation. And Superman is essentially removed from the main plot for a majority of it until he interacts with Gus towards the back half, where he gives him that kryptonite that has him split for a brief second. And then we have this internal conflict of him being evil, which is just him being a dick and like doing minor inconveniences.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah, that's what
ends
it
with
was. It was like he was doing evil side quests.
right. And then
Like,
ends with him going and stopping the people in the third act. I just felt like on a Superman level, it was so disappointing because there wasn't anything to work with. And the best stuff is, even as goofy as it is, I still like the evil Superman bits. That was the most interesting the movie ever was.
my thing though is like every time this movie started to catch a real vibe, it immediately like derails it, and that's what really bothered me. Like
Hmm.
when he and Lana went to Smallville, I was like starting to be able to get into it just a little bit, and then it completely fucking switched gears, you know? Which also, I hate that this movie is so fucking ambiguous about what is going on with with Lois, because it kind of gives you the idea that they're not together, which I think is really dumb.
Well, they're not together after Superman 2.
Oh, that's right, because that's so dumb. That's so
Yeah,
dumb.
right.
That's so
They're
stupid.
That's the whole thing is that Superman, her identity or her memory got erased,
I
whether
know
it's
that's
time travel
dumb.
or the
That's
magic thing.
dumb. My
I
fault.
Did you guys like Lana at all? Because she's the only other actual Superman character that's present in this movie. That's not an original character.
I thought she was okay. She wasn't terrible. Um, it was cool, honestly, to see another like comic book character. And also, question, wasn't this is like a trivia question. Wasn't she played by the actress that played Clark's mother in Smallville?
Yo, he
Yeah,
alreid said this. That's
we talked
crazy.
about this
Oh,
earlier
did he
in the
did he
castle.
actually say
Yeah,
that? Okay, well then yeah, so there you
Annette
go.
Annette O'Toole. Yes, same
Yeah.
same actress.
Well, yeah, no, she was cool. Nothing too special though, like nothing that really like stands out like Lois
She's
and
no
Clark's
Lois.
relationship.
Hmm.
Yeah, Lois and Clark's relationship in the first Superman was like chef's kiss. It was beautiful. It was
The only
um
aspect that I really enjoyed is that she was more in love with Clark Kent over Superman than
Yes.
where with Lois it's kind of the opposite where she falls for Superman and then kind of goes for Clark Kent later on. That was an interesting parallel. But other than that, it's very standard stuff. And I also they were talking about in the behind the scenes footage, Christopher Reeve was saying that like he realizes for the movie that he doesn't have to do the overly goofy Clark Kent stuff for Lana because she doesn't realize he's Superman. So he gets to be more authentically himself. And I think that's something that they could have played with more too, because
Yeah.
I like it's so frustrating because there's a lot of elements in here that I don't hate.
yeah.
I don't even mind a lighter Superman movie. I just think it's so doesn't click at all.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
brings us to hit character Gus Gorman, Richard Pryor, who is this computer genius. He first realizes he can take all the half cents out of people's paychecks and put it all into his account, which gives him 85 grand a week. Which, by the way, I thought that was weird, right? Because I was doing the math on it. A half cent, 85 grand, you'd have to have like a shit ton of employees for that to be weekly. You would need 17 million employees. So this
That's
company
so
has
funny.
got to be the biggest, especially for the 80s, like the biggest company in existence.
Does Amazon probably doesn't even does Amazon even have that many employees?
I I struggle to think that is even
Let
true,
me look it
dude.
up.
Well, I mean, look at
So
this dude.
anyway,
The boss of this company has a snowboarding area on his roof.
Yeah,
he's got
So
to have crazy
Amazon
money.
so
has like a third of that.
Yeah. So then he gets in trouble by Lex Luthor from Timo, Ross Webster, and he gets up there and he's like, "I'm going to use you to infiltrate other parts of my company, and we're going to hack into computers to get more coffee and control the oil and become even more rich." And I feel like the funniest part about this movie is that it plays into the logic that no one knows how computers work.
We're gonna use the satellites to cause earthquakes.
Right. We're gonna use the satellites to use the traffic guys and have them fight each other. Like the red and green light guys.
That shit was cracking me up.
Or even with the oil and stuff, it's just like it reminded me, Jalen. I remember I talked about how my least favorite part of the first Superman movie is the Lex Luthor plot where he wants to take over California. It
yeah.
was like that, but the whole movie.
You're so right.
Yes, actually, you are
Mm-hmm.
like spot on with that. This whole the whole the whole Gus Gorman plot
That's a
point
good
at the
name
end.
though, Gus Gorman.
Gus
Gus
Gorman.
Gorman, yeah, Gus Gorman is fire, but like even like that whole plot that he had, from the jump, it just felt like goofy. You know what I mean? This
Mm-hmm.
entire movie, it feels like a parody almost, like it feels like a parody of what the first two movies were,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Spiders.
the director was like, okay, let's give the people what's in right now, which could have potentially been comedies at the time. I don't really know, but um, you know, what if we went full comedic with Superman, because he is a funny character when you think about it, and it didn't work. No aspects of it work. Richard Pryor, I believe that he won a Razzie for this, didn't he?
I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did,
Yeah,
man.
I'm pretty sure he won a Razzie for worst supporting actor for this movie right here. So
Right.
that just kind of tells you
Were
everything you
you
need to
guys
know.
familiar with Richard Pryor before this movie? Because
I
he
knew
was a
of him.
huge comedian at the time.
Yeah, and this is probably gonna lose me in my black card, but
Hmm.
he was in he was in Sanford and Son, right? He was
He was
like
in a lot of
the
movies.
he was
He was
the
in Lost
son
Highway.
in Sanford and Son, right? So
Hmm.
if he is, then I get to keep my black card today for the podcast.
He had a very prolific film career, and honestly, I've seen some of his stand-up. He's a very funny guy. He just has the worst material
Yeah.
possible, and I can tell that he's like putting what he can into it. It's just no jokes are funny. Is the problem.
Yeah.
And I also thought none of the other villains were interesting. I didn't like the sister. I didn't like actually I did like the bit that the girlfriend was actually super smart, but just
That was
pretended
funny.
to be a dumb blonde. I thought that was very funny.
That was a
But
good bit. I did enjoy that.
I hated the Ross Webster guy. I thought he was so flat and
Yeah.
just the worst elements of Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor, but with a lesser actor. I was I was very disappointed. And even you can tell like how Jackson, you said Brainiac felt like he was in this movie previously. There was going to be one draft of the script that had Gus Gorman be Brainiac. That was the reveal. And I
That's
feel like
insane.
with some reworking, we could have got there. It just needed to be way less comedic and because Richard Pryor like wanted to do more serious work, and that was a reason he wanted to be in the Superman movies. And they just made him overly comedic, and he hated the script. He thought it was absolutely terrible.
Oh, really? I
So
was
did
curious what he thought about the film.
Yes, he did not like it at all. And I have some fun facts about him later that also that also give context of this whole movie. But yeah,
Okay.
him Christopher Reeve was not a fan. Richard Pryor was not a fan. I feel like everyone kind of knew that the script was really lacking. I think that's the big thing here. I don't think the production elements are bad. I think people are trying their best. It's just a really piss poor script.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even direction, I like. There's sequences that I really like the fighter
That was
sequence,
a
like you
good
said,
sequence.
Jackson.
Yeah.
And I don't hate the idea of a supercomputer at the end. It's just again, they act like we don't know how computers work in the slightest. And only Gus Gorman knows how computers work.
Yeah.
I don't even understand how it works at the end because it's like throwing Superman here and there, it turns someone into a robot and then she can fling people back and there's no actual
Crazy.
logic to it. It's just, oh, Gus invented that thing. I Do we have anything else that we really want to get into with this one of the
Why did they
major
bring
elements?
Jimmy Olsen to the firefighting sequence only to like write him out?
I thought Jimmy Olsen was going to be a huge part of this movie,
Yeah,
That's what I
and
same
was kind of hoping
here.
for.
I was
I was
I
like,
was excited, right?
yeah, no,
Yeah.
I was ready for some more like Jimmy Olsen because he hasn't gotten any like shine in these other two movies. So I thought he was gonna be a bigger part, but
From the little we get of him, I like Mark McClure's Jimmy Olsen. He feels very much like the classic version of the character, and I think he could have done something with, especially because Jimmy Olsen plays into comedy so well, that if you're gonna put like a character into this movie, it's Jimmy Olsen. But yeah, he's in the beginning, he's in the bus sequence. They even have this whole setup of Perry White being like, "You have to live with your camera. You have to," and then he's like at the firefights, he's like, "I got to get this photo. I live with my camera." And I'm like, "Okay, are we setting up like a Jimmy Olsen arc here?"
Yeah,
And then
it goes nowhere.
he just fucks off, just like Lois. He dips.
Yeah,
I
it was really bizarre.
yeah. Do we think? I think this movie would have with Margot Kidder. Do you think she would have fit in at all with this tone? I feel like
no.
she was the best performance of the past two movies
I would
besides
agree with that.
Reeve. So I'm curious how she would have even factored into. Because I'm gonna be honest here, Christopher Reeve is phoning it
Oh
in
yeah,
this one, and you
Oh
can
yeah.
kind of tell based on the documentary you watched too, Jackson, where this is the point in his career where he was just kind of over Superman and wanted
yeah,
to move on to other things, and you can just feel it
yeah.
on
You
screen.
didn't feel the passion that you felt in the first one.
No, there's not really a standout sequence. Even the stuff where he realizes he can be normal around Lana, he doesn't play into it enough.
No,
And I
yeah,
just,
and that's also a script and direction thing where it doesn't really feel like they even clocked that that was a
yeah,
part of it. You know?
I,
Let me let me ask too. Like, could a reason for his potential like loss of love for the character and for the story be just how bad the script was? He was like, okay, I have more
Oh
stuff
yeah,
to
one
work
hundred
with for one
percent.
and two, and now it's like, Donner is gone, he's not coming back, Hackman is gone, Kidder is,
mhm,
moving out of here. Like even the Perry White actor is, you know, not really in it that much. So, for Reeve, because I mean I do know that Superman did the character meant a lot to him. So could it
mhm.
have been at a point where he was like, man, like this is, me as an actor, like I'm losing everything that draws me to this character, kind of like Affleck a little bit with Batman.
Right. There's definitely huge elements to it. I think at the same time, like we watched in his documentary, he just wanted to move on to other parts in his career, and he kind of got typecast into Superman and never really broke out of it. And I think that's
Yeah.
frustrating as it leans more and more comedic that maybe he's not being taken seriously as an actor, literally, because he's doing the most comedic, over the top slapstick stuff. And it's just disappointing because, again, what an actor, what a talent, what a character. And you're wasting him to have him play second fiddle to a bad Richard Pryor character. Just just goofing off, man. I also was fascinated by the whole Daily Planet Bingo subplot where they keep cutting back to this couple that went to South America.
Yeah,
I was like, this is such a stupid bit. And that's the only reason Perry's in the movie.
yeah, that was strange because it's like they cut back to it like once, don't they? Once Clark leaves Metropolis, they only cut back like once or twice.
Well, they cut back to it when they win, and then they cut back to like the people taking the photo. How it's
Yes.
actually, I thought that was funny too. Where he's like, this is the best thing I've ever won in my life, and his wife's like, it's like I'm right here. He's like, yeah, I stand by that. And I'm like, dude, you're a piece of
Yeah,
shit.
that was really odd. It felt jarring every time they cut back, right?
Right, and then they get the church torn down on them when they're in South America from Gus Gorman schemes, and then they go back and try to sue Perry White. It's such a non-consequential bit,
Yeah.
and I don't understand why it's in it at all. I also think it's funny that Lois like brought her bikini to the office just to show
Yeah, and I was like, what
everyone
the fuck?
and, and then leave. I man, I'm just so disappointed.
And also, correct me if I'm wrong, but Lana is not in the next one, is she?
No, she's not. Even though she gets a job at the Daily Planet at the
That's so
very
funny.
end. I honestly, I'm kind of glad because I think like the next movie would have been a Lana Lois love triangle
I don't
thing, and
want
I
that.
don't think it would have worked at all. So it's fine. I'm glad they kind of reverted back to what worked.
Status quo,
Well,
yeah.
what works. Apparently, Superman 4 is not very good, but at least they tried to revert back. And
Yeah, I've heard that Superman 4 is even worse than
Mhm.
this.
How can that be possible?
We'll see.
I
We'll
guess we'll see
find
next
out.
week.
It's a tight 90. So at least it's a solid 30 minutes shorter than this was.
Yeah, this was not a tight 90. This was
This was
a long.
this was an hour and 25 minutes.
Yeah, I like the part where Richard Pryor skis down a skyscraper.
That was
and
crazy.
la-
I was
and
like,
lands
what the fuck?
lands perfectly okay because he has skis, so he can survive.
He was operating on Milo Murphy's law logic. Like, what the fuck?
Man, I also I feel like he should have went to prison still at the very
Yes.
end.
Yes, no
And
way.
they kind of
dude.
frame it that like, oh, he wasn't a bad guy. Oh, like yes, he
Yeah.
was.
Superman is like, go to the mines.
Go to the
He
mines.
embezzled money, dude, from a whole company. Like he embezzled $85,000. There's
No, that's
way.
okay. I'm not worried about that. It's more the natural disaster thing.
I saw a funny thing that people pointed out that at the end when he's like telling people he knows Superman at the mines, he does the shirt rip, which
Yeah.
implies that he knows that Clark Kent is Superman, like secretly, and that's awesome.
That's
Gus
crazy.
Gorman, his stash was cool.
The Gore are an arrogant bunch.
The Gore, an arrogant bunch. Name my kid August Gorman, bro.
Is that an Andor reference?
No, dude, that's his last name.
I know.
So sad. We can't talk about Andor.
I know. I won't. But it's just like Gore. You know. I'm sorry.
Just-
I had to make the connection.
Just kidding, bro.
It's like the Star Wars. It's like the Star Wars.
It's like the Star Wars. I don't. Is there anything you guys really liked about this one, or like semi-liked?
I like
That we haven't talked
I
about?
like the fire sequence.
I like it too.
No.
That's it.
No, Jalen?
I didn't like anything. I didn't like anything at all.
I feel like I'm more positive on this one than you guys because I didn't hate it. I didn't like it, but I had there's merit to
There were
stuff in it.
again there were moments I liked, but before I could really get into anything, it just completely switched gears. It's like a movie that felt like it had to reinvent itself every fucking
Mhm.
10 minutes.
I did really like the evil Superman stuff, even especially
hated it.
because that he's not evil at all. Just evil version of Superman is like, I'm gonna fix the leaning tower, and then I'm gonna blow out the Olympic torch.
That was
And then-
funny as fuck. Sorry. That scene was also like really funny.
Right.
That was-
And then I'm gonna go hook up with the Ross Webster's girlfriend, and then I'm gonna go flick pennies at bottles to break them.
No, it's unfortunate because like the God the bit where he blows out the torch is like if I was Superman, I would probably do that. Like
It's funny.
I know that's what I'm saying. That is like if you are saving the world, I think you are like given the right to fuck around a little bit, and that is like one instance where I'm like, yeah, that's funny. That's funny as fuck.
He was just, and everyone's like Superman, he's so bad now, and he's just like breaking bottles in a bar. He's not even really harming anyone.
Yeah, he's just being a mope.
It's fascinating because of the evil Superman trope that we've seen so often that the first version of evil Superman that I know of on screen is just like a nuisance.
Yeah, a
He's
minor
just-
inconvenience.
How did you guys feel about him separating himself at the end? He like, is that in his mind where Clark Kent comes out and he starts fighting him?
I would imagine so.
It was a very fascinating depiction of
All right,
his
I'm
like
gonna
mental
say, all right.
crisis.
So in correct me if I'm wrong, but on Crisis on Infinite Earths, they reference that scene, don't they?
I believe so because they
The
have
CW.
yeah they have two
crossover.
Supermen fight, so it's very
Yeah.
similar.
No, but I'm saying like, doesn't Brandon Routh like recall when that happened?
I think so. It's been so long, dude. It's been like 6 years.
How am I trumping you on DC TV?
Well, yeah, because
Trivia here.
Josh, Brandon Routh's Superman in Superman Returns and in the Arrowverse is supposed to be Christopher Reeve's Superman, right?
Mhm. Yes,
Okay.
they're the same. So we'll have to get into. Maybe I'll have to watch that episode again and see how it ties into these movies, dude. I have no clue. How are we? Let's do the thumbs up, thumbs down. Let's see if we get the approval rating.
No,
Three
no
thumbs
way,
down. No.
dude. Five thumbs down, Josh.
5.
This movie is terrible.
Jalen, was this significantly worse than the Richard Lester Superman 2 cut?
Oh yeah, no, bro, without a doubt, because the Richard Lester Superman 2 still had bits of Donner in it, right? That made
Okay.
it watchable. That made it, pretty enjoyable, right? There was nothing about this, which is why I'm astounded that 4 could be worse than this movie.
Yeah, which we'll get into next week. I do have a
Yes.
couple more trivia things that I have. I wrote down a lot this week, guys. Atari created that video game computer animation for the missile sequence.
Sorry, that is something I also wanted to bring up because what the fuck was that?
I think it's kind of cool that they hired Atari to make it. It's
It
just
is.
it was kind of stupid.
It was.
It reminded there's a bit in Lego Batman 3 that's very similar where they have like things attacking Lego Batman the video game and it's like the same missile video game sequence. I'm like, "Oh yeah, this is like the same bit." Atari also made a Superman 3 game, but it was never released.
Oh wow.
What would the game be? Like what what is there to even do in this movie that requires gameplay, man? It's just Gus
Superman and
Gorman skiing.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, Superman and Gus Gorman going on adventures, going on side quests.
Do you think we'll ever see Gus Gorman again in Superman media?
Yes.
Yeah?
I'm
Comics
completely sincere.
or
Has he ever been in a comic?
I think they made a comic based on this. So he was tied like there was like tie-in stuff, but I don't think he's ever been in a standalone separate thing. That's not
I'm
Richard
gonna
Pryor
say
related.
yes.
Yeah? Do you want to see him in the DCU? James Gunn's Gus Gorman?
But like, if there, okay, all right, you're joking, but if there was one person that would like throw that in as like an homage, it would be James Gunn.
Yeah, man. That's who Mr. Terrific actually is the whole time. It's a big reveal.
It's Gus
That's
Gorman.
he's actually the super genius Gus Gorman.
Gus Gorman working at LexCorp.
There's your Superman 2
Yeah,
or DCU Superman 2.
hire me,
This
James
is
Gunn.
this is the first time Christopher Reeve had top billing for Superman because in movie 1 he was outbilled by Marlon Brando and Gene Hackman and in the second movie he was outbilled by Gene Hackman.
That's
So
right.
it took him 3 movies to get the top billing of his
That's
own
crazy.
franchise. Man, I think he's top billing in 4 at that point, but Gene Hackman comes back, so maybe not. Because Gene Hackman was like
Yeah.
crazy big. The actor who plays Baby Clark in Superman 1, Aaron Spellinski, is a cameo as the boy outside the photo booth where Superman rips off the.
Oh yeah.
Which I actually did like that bit
That was
too.
another good bit. I did like that.
That's the thing. There's little moments, man.
There are,
I
but it's
can't
just
write
like,
this. I can't write this movie off.
no, I agree with you. There are a lot of like little moments, but it's just they're also fleeting. You
They
know,
are fleeting.
there's
And
only
it's-
one like set piece that it really worked for me, and that was the warehouse, the fire scene.
There's
uh,
little gems in the mud, man.
There
but
is.
it's a lot
No,
of
I
mud.
agree with you. It's like this movie is not worthless. It's not. It's not Fant Four Stick bad. It's not Suicide Squad 2016 bad. It's not Justice League bad. But it's also not like anywhere close to good.
Yeah, I agree. Leaning Tower pizza scenes were meant for Superman 2.
Really?
I don't know what the context would have been, but it would have been him fixing the Leaning Tower and then maybe unfixing it. But I think, again, like you said, Jackson, that's actually is a funny bit, especially when he unfixes it too, and the guy like just made new merch. I thought
Yeah, that was funny.
Richard Pryor thought the screenplay was terrible. Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah. So what has he said about the movie since it released?
I don't. All I know is that he like really did not like the scripts, and he wanted to do a serious character and
Interesting.
wanted to do serious work. So this was like a regression for him. This wasn't challenging. And
Yeah.
Christopher Reeve also just that he was just disappointed in the final product. I think Reeve initially didn't hate the script going in, but I think as filming progressed, he kind of realized that it wasn't going.
This is
But
bad.
Reeve really likes the split Clark Superman stuff. That's his favorite bit of the whole movie,
I bet.
which is fair. Yeah, I already talked about the 17 million employees, and then the last one that I said would give more context. This was made when Richard Pryor was heavily addicted to cocaine. Which, like, you can, it's, yeah, right? It's that era, man. I don't even, it's a fascinating performance, and
It is just a deeply interesting performance.
there's interesting stuff in an uninteresting movie.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. That is kind of like exactly how I would sum it up. A lot of interesting stuff in a uninteresting movie.
Right. I'm still glad I watched it though, because it was such a. It's cool to. This is very much a product of its time, even more
Yes.
so than the first two movies. Where the first two movies still kind of hold up. This one's very much. This is a 1980s schlock fest, random blockbuster that didn't work. Like it's like your Jaws 2, Jaws 3 type sequel, and it's so interesting. I'm fascinated to see where we go with Superman 4 next week. I think we're gonna have a lot of
too.
fun.
Me too. I'm
with
interested
it.
and scared at the same time.
Yeah. I have
I
one
bet he'll
real
be
quick.
playing NBA 2K again.
Oh yeah. Well, he's gonna
Let's hope
dual
not.
screen
Let's
it.
hope not. Let's hope not.
Top
Let's hope
screen
it.
Superman 4, bottom
Yeah,
screen
let's
NBA 2K.
let's hope
Yeah.
it's at least like interesting enough, or so bad is good type thing.
Right. I have one quick news thing. It's just that we found out Michael Rooker is not playing any comic book character that we know of. He's playing Big Red the Hunter, who is Eagly's arch nemesis and is going to hunt Eagly in season 2.
Is he not a comic character at all?
I don't believe so. I can look it up, but I think it's a James Gunn creation. And
Interesting.
Yeah,
I'm not like hating it. I think it's fun. It's very much a James Gunn comedic bit. Like
yeah,
you can kind of tell. So I, I'm a little disappointed he wasn't a bigger character than what he is,
yeah.
based on
Was
the
it?
whole like mystical
Yeah,
elements of it all.
so it was him that was surrounded by the mystical
Hmm.
fire, circle fire. Yeah, okay, so yeah, okay.
Yeah,
That's interesting
I think it's
for
gonna be
sure.
funny though. Like him
Hmm.
hunting Eagly. I'm curious if that's gonna be like a solo random offshoot episode or if it's like a recurring
Yeah, that's
plot
what I'm
throughout
curious
the.
about as well.
Because I
Definitely
I could
recurring.
very well see having a like a random
Yeah,
offshoot Michael Rooker Eagly episode. I could see him doing something like that.
And that'd be fun.
That would be fun.
yeah,
But it might also be bad depending on how he plays it. That's it for this week. Next week, like we said, we're doing Superman 4. It'll be fun. Thank you everyone for listening. We'll see you next week.